This is Abnormal Entertainment.
2, 3, 4.
Walked into the tunnel just to find the light. Hunted for old demons, looking for a fight. Looked up at the stars, seemed to go forever. There must be a way, it all fits together. Fell into the quicksand, held on to the vines. Never could quite color, stay within the lines. Feels like I have wings, I can fly wherever. This is just a way, it all fits together. Finally saw the world through rose-colored glasses. Gonna share my journey to small and large masses. Give up on my life, no sir, me never. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together. This is how I put it together.
Hey everybody, this is Daniel Garza. Welcome to another episode of Put It Together. I'd like to start as usual thanking my producer, Mr. Kevin Morris, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Check us out at abnormalentertainment.com. where you can find all the shows on the network. Go check that out. So let's do take two. I like to be honest with my audience. I don't know, something skipped and it stopped. But anyway, on this week's show, Rojo Perez, welcome again.
Hey, we're back at it. I got a second episode already.
Technicalities. But we were talking that I went and saw a show. I'm a Cool Beans comedy alumni now, and we get to come and see some of the shows. And you were in one of the shows that we went to, and I thought you were hilarious. You were just hilarious. And I'm going to skip over the weirdness part of earlier, but what I was telling you before I discovered that something happened is that during class and listening to the classmates, I realized that a lot of our comedy comes from dark places, from painful places. It comes from really personal stories that we went on block, put therapy through it or something. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And listening to your set, I was like, man, there's this whole story behind this guy. I want to hear it. Okay, so I'll say the weird part. So then outside when the people were taking pictures, like, I want a picture with you. Like, no gay part, but I just want a picture with you. not in a weird way. But I was like, can you please be on my show? And you travel a lot, though.
Yeah. This happened to work out. I'm in town for a couple days. You, at the right timing, your message came through. And I was like, yeah, I forgot. And that was my last time I had just said that we didn't have the time to connect. So I just like, yeah, let's make it a point to try to do it this go around. So luckily, I'm in town now till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go to North Carolina, then New Orleans, back to New York, then gone for like 2 weeks again after that. So
that's
pretty busy.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because for anybody who wants to come on the show, if you tell me, call me or message me next Tuesday, I'm on it on Tuesday. Like, hi. Yeah. I'm very casual about it. Like, hi, you said to message you. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Of course.
But before we start into your story, what's your opinion on that part? Like, we always come from
I try to keep it as personal as possible. I think it's a real fine line of when people go, it comes from a place of pain or dark, or because the darker it is, the better the joke has to be.
Got it.
To get the audience back leveled.
Because you can't take them dark.
You can't go crazy dark. Yeah, and it's also when, like, I've learned, like, or not learned, I'm learning as I'm doing it more, where I'm talking about, right now I'm really trying to talk more about somebody who passed in the family. And it's when you bring up something like that, no matter how soft I try to put it, people immediately think sadness. So that extent so the joke has to be that much better, I think, or the joke has to be so spot on, on point, so coming from such a sweet place, even though you're talking about death or you're talking about being homeless or whatever the case is, it still has to be a very sweet. It can't come off as I'm angry or I'm bitter or I'm still like...
It's like a sugar-coated jalapeno.
Something like that. Yeah, that's a fair one. Once they swallow that's not my problem. You deal with that shit at home.
I've had so many dates like that. It's not mine anymore. You claim it. But let's get started with your story because I really want to hear it. I purposely didn't like Google too much.
Okay.
I do a lot of research because I wanted to hear it. Like
that's a fun, that's a fun way to not do research.
Yeah.
You're like, I just want to hear you, man. Just talk it out. No, I
Someone calling me out. But the tradition on my show is I only look up enough stuff so that I have an idea of your story. And then, so I'm not completely surprised by people. But yours, I was like, I don't want to, other than what I know about you right now, I'm like, I don't know. I work a lot with energy, and people that listen to the show know that. I'm a Reiki master, so there's a lot of energy work that I put into people. There's a reason why you're sitting with me. I really do stalk my guests.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I want to know.
Yeah.
Tell me your story, Rojo.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Rojo Perez, tell us, how do you put it together?
I think I'm still trying to put it together. Yeah. I think that's like the idea I have it together is pretty silly. I'm sleeping on my friend's futon while I'm in LA, so it's not very put together. I guess I grew up in Puerto Rico. I caught the tail end of my parents' American dream. They lived in New York for like 20 plus years. I caught the last 8 of it. And then they moved back to Puerto Rico.
Oh, okay.
So I did the reverse. They moved a fat little English-speaking boy to Puerto Rico. And they were like, go ahead, you can figure this shit out now.
And you were 8 years old?
I was 8 or 9 around the time when we moved. And it was I remember I almost failed public school because I didn't speak the language.
That's crazy.
So I just sit in the back of classrooms for hours, not understanding anything.
Because did you not speak Spanish at
my
home?
parents said I spoke very little of it, and they never, since they both worked. Like my babysitter was like this Irish lady, so it's like I know so much more about that.
They really closed up that bilingual door on you.
Yeah, they hammered that down. And then I would speak so much English. My parents they'd talk to me in Spanish, but it wasn't enough that I could fend for myself for hours.
And did your parents love you?
Yeah, they're great. My favorite.
I mean that jokingly for the parents.
Yeah, of course. No, they're great. And I give my mom shit all the time because I have like these memories of. I remember my mom. This is like my mom trying to teach me how to write, and her frustration because I couldn't get it. And then I forget. We did this for days. It felt like, and then finally my aunt or somebody came over and they were like, "What if we let him try with the left hand?"
Really?
And she was like, at this point, sure, whatever. And I was left-handed, and it was much better left-handed. And my mom thought I was, she was like, we didn't cook this one enough. This one came out too early.
He doesn't speak Spanish. He can't ride.
So weird. It's just not.
He doesn't speak Spanish. He can't ride. Can we send him back?
Yeah, he better be pretty, because this is not gonna give much else.
So you went for funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess when I started to put stuff together was when I went to college. I went to college, a small school in Florida. And I was there. I went to school for journalism. I wanted to do sports radio, news media, stuff like that. And when I was there, I started doing silly sketches with a buddy of mine. And I'd write, and I didn't know what to do with it. I'd write what I thought were stories or whatever. And then I remember showing him, and he was like, "Oh, these are like kind of like jokes." And he was like, he had already started going to open mics. He was like, "Do you want to come with me?"
Yeah.
We went. We went to Cocoa Nuts.
Excuse me.
In beautiful Clearwater, Florida. And
you can't make up this shit.
No, Cocoa Nuts was great. That was a hot chain in Florida for a while. And I bombed. He won $50 for best set of the night. And then the drive back was the quietest drive I've ever been on. We didn't say a word to each other, but he couldn't stop smiling. And he wasn't trying to be a dick. He was just happy he did well. And I was so angry. And it felt like a married, 40 years in, married couple. They're just done with shit. Everybody's got their doggy bag.
Where some chick hit on your husband.
And something happened. Just like,
wait till we get home.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you... Okay, because I guess everybody knows at some point that we learn more from our mistakes than from our victories. What did you learn something that first night?
Yeah. It wasn't as scary.
Okay.
I think the idea of... I remember I loved watching stand-up growing up, but I never understood that's something people just did.
Okay.
It would always felt like, oh, these people do it, but you're not one of those. They're not common people.
Right.
They're somehow plucked out of, and they're like anointed, great at this, and they're just funny, and we all agree they're funny. But I never processed it of being like, oh, this is how you said. Because really, it was like, there was no this.
Right.
There was no podcasting.
Right.
So I had no clue. There was nowhere even for me to really look to try to understand that stand-ups start at open mics, and they just start. And then eventually good ones and people who last long enough rise up, and the rest kind of bubbles down.
And this is, because I know the answer for me, do you think that having the right representation on TV... okay, let me start with this question. As a kid, although your background, your parents were Puerto Rican, did you identify as a white kid because you were, or were you mixed? Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes total sense. I don't necessarily white. I definitely didn't feel a part of Puerto Rican culture till I was much older.
Okay.
I always felt kind of on the outside. Mm-hmm. I always I understood it, but I didn't understand it enough. People were watching the Monday night talk show in Puerto Rico. I was watching cable TV. I just missed a bubble there. It was I didn't I like playing sports, but I didn't like just walking through fields. And you know what I mean? And it was just weird, and it's just bonding moments of at the time you're that's obnoxious, but now when I try to do stand up in Spanish and I hear other comics, there's just a slang, there's just a shorthand they have about stuff I vaguely remember because I never was really into it. Like that. So it's and I didn't go to a public school. Eventually, they had to move me out to a private school that did predominantly English. So I never really felt so into it while I was living there.
Because for me as a kid, I'm the same shit. I was born in Monterrey, in Mexico. We moved to Dallas, in Texas, and then I moved back to live with my sister in Mexico to go to school. So it was
Yeah.
it was that same thing. Like, I knew Spanish, but I didn't know that Spanish. And it was kind of odd to fit in. So while other kids, my parents were watching like Sábado Gigante.
I mean, that show used to bore the fuck out of
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. It's an adult show.
Okay.
While they were watching that, I was watching reruns of Benny Hill, and I thought it was freaking hilarious. So for anybody out there, I was watching Benny Hill since I was like 7. Explains a lot. Right there, yeah.
And there were a couple shows that I remember, and there's like Ramon Arieta is somebody who's still around, but he was big when I was a kid, and he had like the cool Tuesday late night show.
Okay.
And it was like a sketch show hybrid with interviews, and that was like, oh, that's the one you want. If you were cool, the cool kids watch that. Your mom and dad watch a Monday other dude.
Yeah.
But Tuesday night, that's who we liked as a kid. But that's also just like one thing. That was only one little thing of the whole piece of the island of Puerto Rico.
Right.
That I really remembered now.
So then watching, and this is where the question comes in, watching comedians that you say they did it, but I didn't. What was that line? What was that? Does that make sense? Like, why was it them and me?
I think it was because TV was such a... I loved TV. I grew up... that's a dumb thing to say. We all grew up with TV technically, but I genuinely loved watching it. And it was something about being like, oh, people on TV are like different.
Got it.
That's not just... Every now and then somebody gets interviewed in the news and you're like, that person looks silly. But when they're in a show, a production, they're like, oh, fuck, that's TV. Like, wow. Like, it was that sort of odd thing. So it was like, we don't do that. And I grew up in a small town. Like, we had, like, musicians come out. Like, you have musicians, excellent musicians. You have great athletes who've come out of Puerto Rico. But comedy wasn't... we didn't have, like, the ones we grew up where they were still local and they would still, like, travel to, like, Miami or New York or, like, places that were heavy Spanish population. But it wasn't, like, a known...
Got it.
We didn't have that. And, like, eventually, that's when I remember seeing, like, John Leguizamo. Like, John doing his HBO special, his brother, even, but that wasn't stand-up, but those one-man shows... I remember seeing that and being like, oh, that's pretty dope. But that to me was still a different guy. It wasn't real.
There was a break between where you were like, some people say there's the ladder, you can just climb the ladder to it.
Yeah,
and I agree with you because my family didn't encourage arts or creativity.
Yeah.
You were born, you went to school, graduated high school, there's the factory.
Yeah, you try to provide, it was always the dream of your parents work to provide for you till you grow up, and then the goal is you get a decent job or wherever you can get a good job that pays more than what they made, and then you start a family, and the cycle is hopefully your kids can now make a little more than you made. But that was it. There was no... But I do think we're also one of that... I really do think we're the first real generation to be allowed to be selfish. I think it's much more socially acceptable to go, I'm chasing a dream, than it was, I believe, for our parents. I don't know if it's because the economy went to shit at some point, or jobs just weren't as readily available. But I do believe we're that first group to come out and be like, I'm not going to have kids.
Right.
I don't need to have kids. That's why. Why would I do that? I'm still enjoying what I'm still getting better at me.
You're still putting it together.
I'm still putting it together.
Yeah.
So it was like, I do think, so it took forever for my parents to be okay with this. And not even, I think even just to understand it. Because they also didn't. I think they also said to me like, man, you can't be on that guy. That guy's great. Or that girl, she's amazing. That's not. You're okay.
You're a kid.
Fine.
You don't speak Spanish and you write with your left hand.
Yeah, you didn't know how to write. Get out of here.
So what happened between your first open mic and your second one? Because I'm sure there was a growing.
I mean, first time I got on stage was summer 07. I want to say summer 07. Yeah, and I was interning. I had one semester left of college, so that whole summer I was able to get up without people even really knowing, just me and my buddy, and we would go and we'd try a couple times a week, but it's like in Florida at that point we were like, man, we're killing it. We're getting up 2, maybe 3 times this week. We're really grinding. We're doing it. And of course you're not. Like if you go to other cities and really see how people are working, you're like, God, jeez.
But for
that moment, for that little window, it was like, oh, we're doing this.
Your buffers were telling you,
and
man.
me and my buddy would go to like that little club, or we'd go to hookah bars, or we'd go to coffee shops. We'd scour anywhere in Tampa, Orlando that had any sort of open mic. That didn't have to be comedy. It'd be poetry, be music, be whatever. We'd just go and be like, hey, can we just like talk for a couple minutes? And that's how we did it. So that was like I don't know how well I would have been able to do if I just did it alone.
Huh.
That couple months really helped to have someone to fail with, and to have someone to talk to and think about jokes and like try to figure out and do that whole weird like talking about comedy without being jokes, but like what are you trying to say and like shit like that when you start overthinking. But I had someone to do it with, and someone I thought was funny. And he thought I was funny, even like when I had bad sets. He'd be like, "Oh, that line works. That's a funny thing." That's like, so I'm super. Yeah, I think that's when I started putting it together. That summer was like, "Oh, this is fun," and I don't want to. I realized I was like, I don't necessarily want to write the story. I want to write, but I don't want to write the story about other people.
Got it.
And that's where I kind of pulled away from freelance journalism stuff and like video editing and that stuff, and I was like, I wanna be the story.
That's pretty interesting, because is that where you start developing your niche, your pace? Because here's the question, I guess. Like if you're doing other people, I don't know if this is what you're referring to. If you're talking about other people's lives or trying to make other situations funny, and they're not organic from you. Oh,
I meant more of like getting a degree in journalism.
Okay, got it.
I was like, I was writing and I was doing these pieces. I was writing for like a local newspaper in Florida.
But you were already telling your stories.
I'd started doing open mics, and I mean at the time, I guess I'm pulling from personal, but I didn't look at it like that. At the time, you're just trying to find anything that's funny. It's so like, it's that idea of, I think it's like learning how to play basketball. I'm not necessarily, today I'm going to work on layups. Today I'm shooting jump shots. Like, I just want that shit to go in. I'm just tossing it up, wherever it is, just please go in. And like that going in was the laughter. I wasn't thinking, oh, what's my story? What do I need to say? The only thing I do remember thinking was, you'll never hear me do an accent.
Okay.
I remember making that decision very early, of going, and I don't know if it was the right one or I still battle with it, but I never want to be necessarily seen as a Hispanic comedian. I wanted to be seen as a comedian who happens to be Hispanic. That was early on. In the sense being, you're not going to hear me go, so my abuela sounding like that. Like, you know what I mean? You'll never hear me do that, because she didn't sound like that. My mom is a very educated woman. When I talk about her, I don't give her a weird accent.
Right.
Because I felt very early on, an audience, it may get you a laugh now, but I do think it somehow dumbs down that culture if you're doing it for a crowd that's not that culture.
Right.
So me doing like this accent where my instead of going train car, they go train car. Like me doing that, I think I'm subliminally just putting something in that audience's head, being like, all of them sound like this. This is how they all speak. What I've already had in my head as a preconceived notion, this person's validating it. And now I'm just trying to get a little laugh out of the expense of Puerto Ricans.
That's interesting.
And that was something I was very aware of early on. So I never did it. I guess I could be further along.
No,
if I did, you know what I mean? So
your comedy doesn't need it.
And eventually, thank you, because eventually I think I found how to talk about it in my own way. But that early on, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I just remember being like, this is a decision I'm making, and I'm sticking to this, and we'll figure it out.
And
we'll see not figure it out, we'll see what happens.
Because your name, Rojo Perez, like...
You think it'd be Spanish enough.
Because the moment I saw your name on the roster, I was like, ooh, a Latino, yes! Like, I'm going to get some of these jokes. This is going to be funny. And you were hilarious. But you have your persona. You are you. And from knowing you right now, I guess we all go on stage and kind of change a little bit. There's something about the light in your face that makes us a little different. But there's not a whole lot, like if I saw you on stage now, I'm like, I get him. Like, I know where he's coming from. And the reason I was kind of jumping in is I've just started doing stand-up. I've been pretending to be funny all my life, mainly to not get beat up or bullied. But in my set, I talk about anal cancer because I do a lot of advocacy work, and I wanted a set that had something about cancer to make it, basically to take my show on the road for conferences. And it has a purpose. It doesn't have a general audience purpose because a lot of people don't want to hear about fingers up my ass all the time. Well, maybe in the gay bars, maybe. But and then the second part, I talk about the mean girls of church, which is basically all these Latino women that I know growing up who were evil. But they were at church every Sunday. They judged everybody. They hated everybody. That's funny. But me as a little gay boy, I loved sitting next to them because they were evil and they were reading everybody to filth, and you wanted to sit next to them. Yeah. That's part of my joke. I had an issue because in it I do the characters the way I remember them in Dallas, and they had a slang, they had a voice, and they spoke differently than proper English or proper Spanish. There was Spanglish things. Yeah. But you just kind of validated that as that's a true person. That to me, then that's exactly, like, if those are legit how people, like, that's the thing. I don't want it to come off, I'm like, people who do voices or hack no. If that legit is how it was, then sure, man, like, do it. I'm not trying to be high and mighty about what laughter is. Rojo said, I can't do this anymore.
Man, do it. That's great. If that's a genuine thing, how you remember. If these people were just no tone and they just spoke perfect English, and then you're just adding this voice, then I'm like, well, to me it loses some.
Doesn't need it, yeah.
But also, to each their, like, that's my opinion. I'm not saying it's the opinion. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying
it's in writing now.
Yeah, but that's how I went about it. But people do. That's what I'm saying. People do it their own way, and people are doing very well, and they're really good at it, and that's great. Like, I love, like, one of the big early specials for me was George Lopez. Right now. And what I remember loving about it, the same reason I loved a lot of John Leguizamo stuff is it got into family.
Right.
It got pretty personal. It touched on, in George's, he touches about Mexico, when you fly into Mexico, going back to visit family. And there was stuff that was like, he does accents, he does thick Mexican accents for a lot of them. And I was like, man, that's really funny. But that's how he does it.
Right.
So it's very fun. Like, I still love, like, there's a Home Depot bit that's amazing to me about giving shout-outs over the speaker, the Home Depot, to other workers. And I was like, man, that's such a really funny thing. And he has voices all through it. But, like, that's how he does it. That's dope. But that's not how I know how to do it. Also, he did it, and he did it really good. I don't need to do... I'm just recycling at that point, for me.
Right. Yeah. Do you, for your sets, for your stuff, do you write things down? Do you, like, the way that I've learned it now is I'm writing and rewriting, I'm talking, and I'm the weirdo on the freeway.
Talking to yourself?
So, yeah. What's your method?
It keeps changing. I feel like every couple years where it's... I used to like going word for word beforehand. Before I even did it, I'd write it out word for word of how I thought it should go. And I'd write it, and then I'd pretty much memorize most of it, and then go try it. And I've thankfully for years I've always recorded sets on my phone. Just record every audio set. You go home, you have to listen to it, good or bad. Figure out why it went which way. And then over the past couple years where I just continue to get more and more comfortable on stage, now I can just now I can bullet point lines.
Okay.
Now I can write out, man, this line's funny. This is a funny thing. And then let's see if we can weave them together. And then once I think I have it pretty well down, then I'll sit down and write it out.
Have you been on stage at any point where something came out and you were like, I shouldn't have said that?
I shouldn't have?
Yeah. Because it's 10 years now that you've been...
Yeah, I'm sure there's jokes that I had that I probably look back now like, I probably wouldn't do that joke anymore. That's not...
That's not...
And that was just it's just going back to the point of, I was just trying to get a laugh for a laugh.
Got it.
I wasn't growing with, I didn't believe in that. So there's... the joke that I think I probably wouldn't tell, I think it's kind of funny to tell them out of, like, I'm aware that these are not jokes, but I'm not hiding it. I'm sure somewhere people could find online. There's a joke about why white women like to date me.
Okay.
And it was the gist of being like, white women date me because I'm exotic, like I'm brown enough to get your parents angry, but not brown enough to hit them. Which is I'm aware. I'm telling you in this. You have to see this whole clip together. I'm aware why that joke's wrong, but at the time, I'm just looking for a joke that works. I'm just trying to search for something that's funny.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I like it, and that's like some people would really pop, some people would but I was just wanting a reaction. I was so new to this idea, I just wanted something back. Like there was like, actually I was in Florida a couple months ago doing a show, and my buddy, a college friend who had seen me open micing in Florida years ago, he reminded me of a joke that he's like, do you remember this, the real New York joke you had? And I was saying, like, no, and he told me, and it was like, it's not a bad joke. Yeah, it's just like the idea of living in New York, everybody wants that real New York moment that makes you like a New Yorker. Everybody's searching, like, my buddy finally had a real New York moment. He died during 9/11. Again, I'm aware why these jokes I'm aware it doesn't, but you're just looking for a joke. And I was like, I didn't remember this joke at all. And he remembered it from 10 years ago.
Wow.
And he was like, I always remember that joke. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I wish you would forget that joke.
At what point in these last 10 years, or was there a point where you said, this is the path, there's no turning back, plan B is dead? And I don't...
No, I know what you mean. I'd probably say... Man, there's maybe like year 3 in New York, year 4 in New York, where some people were starting to take me on the road with them to open. I did a couple cool festivals that like bigger names were at, and like people who were getting stuff seemed like they fucked with me. Like comics who were they were ahead of me, but they seemed to be like, yeah, I like this dude. And I think little stuff like that just started piecing together. But like, I was very honest with myself, being like, I'm prepared to spend all of my 20s in shit jobs if I'm chasing this.
Okay.
I never had that delusion of, oh, this will happen by the time I'm 24. And then, who cares? Life is gravy.
I'll be serving a table, I'll say a joke, and I'm there.
So it was like, I was very aware of like, there were little goals I had, but like I was aware of like, that first decade pretty much, those 20s, you're going to have shitty jobs and know what the long game is. Know that there's a purpose. And I remember being like, if by 30 I don't feel I'm at a certain point, then maybe we rethink this.
Would you gone back to journalism?
I honestly, man, thank God we haven't had a rethink, because I have no clue. Like, for years my mom would be like, she'd ask me stuff and then be like, so you know the post office is hiring, right? And I was like, that's a union. That's like a good job.
I love you, but you know, this is also like, and they'd be like, well, you know, your brother works in the agency. Maybe I was like, hey guys, I'll be okay. It sounds like you're trying to find your girlfriend, you know.
Yeah, just anything.
Go down the street and still single.
Anything without drink tickets.
I have some questions saved. I don't want to say ask him that because those are saved for the end of the show.
Yeah.
But highlights for you so far, like in your career, things that you can look back and, you know, those moments in your life that don't need a selfie or a picture. Like, you can just remember them.
Yeah. I mean, the couple TV things I've done were always cool. The Conan was a really fun thing. Taping this HBO special was cool. Man, I think the dopest stuff has always been elders saying something. Like, there's been like windows where I've seen who I look up to come up and say something, and go like, man, that was really funny. Or like take a time to even watch the set and be like anything, whatever it went, however it went. But they like, usually it's like, well, and I'm so aware of like peers. There's people I genuinely respect and that think are amazing, like Jim Gaffigan giving me a hug when he's like sees me. That's like a dope.
It's pretty cool.
And there's like we don't have to say much. We know who each other are. Like, I clearly know who you are more than you know who I am, but you see me around enough to be like, hey, you're one of the people.
That's pretty
It
cool.
seemed that little stuff like that was like, it doesn't matter the names, but it's just peers of higher up who are doing very well. Say, take a time out to be like, hey, that was pretty dope. Oh, that was okay.
Yeah.
Man, I like what you did there. Or like, people I knew. I think one of my favorite was Nate Bargatze, who's I think is an amazing comedian. We became like friends or friendly before he'd even seen me do stand up, and we were just cool. We'd hang out, and I'd go with him to shows and just try to be around a little bit. And we finally did a show together, and I did well for the time. At whatever time I was, I did fine. And after this show, he goes, "Man, I'm so happy you were good, because if not, we weren't going to be able to be friends anymore." And that was like a dope moment to be like, yeah, you're kind of kidding, but you're not really kidding. So stuff like that to me has always been like the dope, like going to cool festivals and people knowing who you are. And like people being like, I've heard, or I've seen you, and like that to me is like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Those to me are the real highlights of like, everything else I appreciate it, but it's just like,
I've done a lot of public speaking for the last 17 years. I do a lot of public speaking, and people come up after years like, oh my God, you're so inspiring and you motivate me. And I was like, well, that's kind of what they paid me for. So
yeah, you did a good job.
Job done. But the first set as a stand-up, like you're on a list, and to have people that went to go see other comedians on that showcase outside come up to me and go, oh my God, when you said this, I knew exactly. Or when you made that Mexican joke, like my aunt is that woman. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, and then a couple of the comedians that were there with Corey and Matt were like, you're kind of funny. And I'm like you just said, like, dude, I've seen you. Like, you're hilarious. Like,
yeah.
Like for you to take the time to just stop me and shake my hand, I was like, I'm never going to wash this hand again. I'm not even going to masturbate with it anymore. I did, because they were kind of cute. But it was just one of those walking out moments. And, of course, I got in my car, my head from the ego didn't fit.
Yeah.
Until my boyfriend was like, bring it down a notch. You got to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, shut up. But I dig it. It's even in acting, when I've had a chance to work with people that I really, really enjoy watching, and we finish a scene, they're like, man, dude, I felt you. And you're like, you felt me? Like, I'm here for you. Like,
yeah.
That's fucking awesome. What was the first bubble popping moment that you had?
Bubble popping moment?
Yeah, like, you had this idea. We have these bubbles of dreams and fantasies, like expectations, and then
it flattens out.
Somebody, boop.
I started getting seen pretty early. So I remember I got a Montreal Just for Laughs audition 24, I think. And at the time they did 3 rounds before they decide who's going actually for the festival for New Faces.
Oh, okay.
Which was a big thing. And first I did the audition. The first one went great. But it was at the place I'm comfortable at. They moved me to another place. The second one went well. After the second one, the head of the festival, who calls me, and he goes, hey, so no promises, but if this goes the way it's going, can you do me a favor and just not sign with any managers or agents? Because the whole point of the New Faces is the undiscovered
Got it.
talent. So if these people have representation, it defeats
Right.
But he goes, he's like, hey, no guarantee, but I'm saying it feels like we're in. And I was like, dude, I'm 24, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is crazy to me. I'm gonna go, and on my first year auditioning, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna fucking be a new face, a legit new face.
Wow.
And then the third round, I just bomb. It flat, dude. It just a bad set. There was no,
Dead on arrival.
yeah, it was just like, and I was still doing stuff that was a little too weird for regular clubs.
Yeah.
And it just never and it just was a fucking bomb. And I remember walking out, and all that excitement you feel the first 2 rounds after doing well, it's so dry, and you walk out and nobody's really saying anything, and the people who did, and you know what it feels like because you see the other people who did well, and they have that energy, and it was just like, and that was like, yeah, man, you got a long way to go. Like you're trash. You still gotta learn. Like there's a lot of stuff. There was like at that time you're doing a 5-minute set. I had maybe 7 minutes. Just happened to be that 5 of them were pretty decent. But I didn't have like midway through a bomb, I couldn't pivot to anything else because I had nothing else.
Got it.
Like there wasn't anything really that good yet. So it was like, yeah, let's just salute, or let's just die with this 5, and just like
I just have this image of like being served crackers for an appetizer with no water. You're just
and you're just staring out, and it felt like old bombs again. It felt like starting out all over again, that bomb. And I remember being like, that was a good one, and being like, boop, yeah, calm down.
Well, I'm sure for the young comedians out there, and I consider myself a young comedian. In fact, I'm not young by all means, but in comedy I am. Those are lessons learned because
you're like the rookie. You're like that ABC show.
Yes.
But for stand-up comedy.
I'm 48 years old, and I'm trying to trying a new career. Only because I live I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed. I do a lot of different things. This is one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Because I get to talk to all kinds of people and hear stories. And especially for some reason, since I did that first stand-up comedy set, I've just been connecting with a lot more comedians. I have a lot of comedians on the roster to come in on the show to do my show. So I'm excited. And I think it's Facebook. I people bitch about Facebook, but I think it's awesome when you like friend the right people, and then I send my information sheet to somebody, and then they go look on Facebook, and they're like, "Oh, you know so and so." Of course, I know him.
Yeah,
of course I did. In my head, well, yes, I sat next to 3 chairs down from him at the show, but we know each other. I passed him the ketchup. We're good. We're good. So we're coming to the point of the show. This is the last 20 minutes, and this is kind of where we send some words of wisdom to the folks listening. So, Rojo Perez, what words of wisdom do you have for my audience?
This would have been nice to know at the beginning, so I could have thought of it, but no, I'm fucking with it.
I like to put my people on the spot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, if you're chasing a dream, just because you're chasing it doesn't mean you're doing it. Just know the work it takes. Just because you want to do this doesn't automatically mean you're gonna do it. Like if you're not putting in the time, like you wanna, like I wanna be a comedian. I moved to New York. I started getting up 2-3 times a night. Every night for X amount of years, and if I wasn't up, I was going to see a show. I was going to see what other people were doing. And this is just, I'm saying just because this is what I know, but in any level field, whatever you're doing, if you want to be a writer, what are you reading? Who are you reading? Are you constantly workshopping? Don't fall in love with your first go around. No, it's not done. No, it's like, just a dream's a dream, but like, without the work, you can't. Nobody's handing dreams out. Too many of us are chasing it. So there's really more of just the work you put in. And everybody says, don't look forward, enjoy the moments. I guess it's very difficult. That's such a stupid phrase, I think, because nobody who's going through it says it.
Right.
You only hear people on the other side of the shit to be like, man, those were good times. No, you fucking hated most of it, and that's fine. But take the little victories, but no, it's still work. Somebody's working, somebody's doing what you're doing, and doing it hard, and like trying harder, doing more work, or being more meticulous about whatever, how they do it. I think that's the best thing I could tell myself.
Yeah, because I was just having a meeting with some friends this morning. For those of you listening, I'm shooting a pilot for a talk show.
Oh, great.
That I'm producing.
That's dope. Congrats.
Yeah, so 3 years of work and research and watching other shows and figuring out what works and what doesn't, and then having to sit down with people that I want on my show and go, here's the vision.
Yeah.
And trying to paint it the best way possible. And at some points, I knew I was losing them. I was like, shit, what do I say? What do I do? Luckily, I've been talking to them long enough that they get it. And they get it. But yes, we're shooting my pilot today. Is the 9th, the 10th? We shoot my pilot on the 23rd for my talk show.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So everything's kind of lining up. And I've got some people that I want to pitch it to. So, but like you said, there's a lot of moments along the way that just sucked. And then I was trying to get a concept. I would shoot a little demo and look at it. I'd be like, that's horrible. What are you doing? And my boyfriend, whom you met, is directing. And I love him, but I hate him as a director. But that's why I want him there. Because I know he's going to pull the best out of me. But meanwhile, anyway, there's all validating what you just said. There's all these moments along the way that you're like, holy fuck, what am I getting into? But then you're so invested in it that you got to keep going.
Yeah.
And
that stuff is also, I think, important to know when something fails, go back and try to figure out what failed.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's okay to fail, but know what you get out of it. If I do a set and I just bombed for 15 minutes, and then I can't go back and listen and go, what was off?
Right.
Not everything's gonna hit, but pick a joke. Figure out why this shit isn't working. What's it need? What's it missing? Like, so if you can pick up stuff from the losses, I think you're doing the work.
So, here's where I get into my Barbara Walters mode. You just talked about what's missing, what's still missing in Rojo Perez's life.
I mean, professionally, a lot. I think exposure, more content on my end. We're like, there's a couple things working on this year that hopefully, out of the 3 that are in there, if 2 happen, it'll be a good year already. Like, cool. But I mean, everything is like, as I've gotten older, I've been more aware of how I want to either try to connect with the Hispanic community, Latin community, and mostly Puerto Ricans, but it's not just Puerto Ricans. It's because I think you were going to touch about it a little bit earlier, and we kind of veered away of representation on TV,
right,
and who you see. So I don't necessarily need to be Dominican for a Dominican person to see me and still see a little of themselves in me, or Mexican or Ecuadorian, wherever. Like, so it's not just Puerto Rican, but I'm very aware of what I think, what I want at the end of the day what I want to do for Puerto Rico and Puerto Ricans and either people who are at our level now or kids who eventually will be hopefully seeing this and seeing stuff like that. So a lot of that just goes on. More work needs to be done.
Right.
More exposure. You need half hours. You need an hour special. You need a TV show. You need this stuff is all goals, but they're goals for the big picture of how do I really reach these people? How do I reach my my community,
right,
and have them see someone the way I saw Raymond and Bejuca and these people growing up, and Leguizamo, and what those few did for me.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what's missing, or what I want, not missing, but what I want to get to professionally. Personally, I don't know, dude. I'm a mess. Personally, it's such a mess. My patience is so little, and I don't get angry. I just get over stuff, and I'm very we're good here, right? We don't need to keep hanging out. What are we doing?
I think that's why folks kind of enjoy this show, because it's one take. We don't reshoot it. Well, except for the beginning.
Yeah.
Except for the beginning, because the button didn't hit right. I'll blame it on the phone. But it's one take. We're just having a conversation. You can't say anything wrong, because it's you.
Well, you can definitely say some stuff wrong, but hopefully it comes off. You explained yourself well enough.
I've only had a couple of shows where I was like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
And then I sent them to my producer before it uploaded, and I'm like, what do I do with this? And he's like, do you want it? I'm like, can it? We're not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially one guy who came on to talk about politics or something, and ended up talking about all these conspiracy theories about 9/11 and Kennedy, and I was like, the fuck are you talking about? And through the whole episode, you just hear me going, yes, but, well, but.
Yeah.
And at 30 minutes, well, that's the show. We're done. He's like, I thought it was an hour. I'm like, it's
blew by.
Wow. Look at you. In the book of your life, when the biography comes out, what is the first sentence in the book?
Jeez. And the book, somebody writes a book about me, the first sentence would be, I would hope it would be a line from a joke.
Okay.
I don't think I've written that joke yet, so there's no hurry. I'm getting this book going. Yeah, I think it would hopefully be a line from a joke or something that bleeds in over to the pop culture world that people kind of know for. There's if I could get an all right in life, if I could get a McConaughey Dazed and Confused type memorable line, man, I think I'm happy with it.
I think that is a perfect first line for a book. I haven't written the joke yet.
Okay.
But
I don't mind that.
Yeah. I haven't written the joke yet, but here's my life story. Something along that lines.
I'm okay with that.
We'll put that. Give me credit when you do.
Yeah.
If you had to name this episode for you, what name would you give it?
Educated Rambler.
I've been allowing or asking my guests now
to name
their.
I don't know what you do then. You're not doing research. They're naming your episodes.
I'm on year
this
7.
Is my podcast.
I'm on year 7. At this point, I'm like, I want you here, but what do you bring to the table? I've got the camera. No, it's interesting because that came up because I did an episode. And I won't say which show because they'd be like, really?
Yeah.
I did an episode and I gave the show a name, which after 230 episodes, I've named,
of course.
I've named all of them. And one of the guests wrote me and says, I don't particularly like that title. And I was like, well, it's something, I'm quoting you, it's something that you said. He was like, well, I don't think I like it. So I said, okay. So I called my producer and said, here's the other name that I had. Can we change it? Well, a day later, I get another phone call, and he's like, well, I don't like that either. And I was like, well, and I said it a lot nicer than this. I go, well, what the fuck do you want to name it then? And that's the nice version of the story.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, can we name it that? And I was like, sure, it's your episode. Like, I tell everybody when they sit down, this is your episode. It's my show, your episode. I'm like, sure, that's fine. And then my producer said, well, why don't we just...
have people name. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fine. So now when people come over, I'm like, what would you name it? Doesn't mean it's gonna stick.
Yeah.
But you know.
Fine. Yeah, if you come up with something else.
But you know, it could be.
As long as you're not quoting a 9/11 joke or the other joke, I could care less.
Yes, that's. I get sometimes criticized, but I like a good gay joke.
Yeah.
I like a good Mexican joke. I think because they come from a real place.
Yeah.
Stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. I'm HIV positive. I don't like AIDS jokes. I don't think those are funny at all. But if somebody can pull off one and make me laugh, I'm like, good for you, man. And then I can't say anything anymore because I make cancer jokes, anal cancer jokes, and with graphics and everything. So could I really go after somebody and go, oh my God, you can't do that joke when I'm doing cancer jokes? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever had that situation?
No, I mean, the joke from earlier, I stopped doing it because I don't at all feel that. I don't think it's a healthy way to even put people, even though I don't mention any specific race. I just say brown people. I still don't even like where people were taking it. I didn't like the way people were laughing at it. I didn't feel a certain way. So that's why I stopped doing it. If somebody else were to do that same exact joke and it works and they like gets laughs and hey, more power to that's fine. That's the thing, I don't care. Like I don't care what you joke about, honestly, if you can really put a decent spin on stuff. Like if you can actually make a good point out of it, then fine. If you're just joking just to joke, then I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of, there's no weight to it.
I believe that because again, I started watching Benny Hill when I was like 7 years old. Again, this is why I am who I am. And then Carol Burnett was part of my things. I loved watching Carol Burnett.
Man, I want to see her back on.
It wouldn't be awesome.
I just want her again to play someone's mom or something at this age. It's just so funny.
Although I remember she did an episode of Law and Order where she was evil, and I loved her. I was like, oh,
she's dead.
Carol Burnett as a mean girl, like I love her.
Mama's Family.
There's all these twisted shows that I watched, especially in like the 70s and 80s when it wasn't as sensitive as it is now.
Yeah.
So I used to watch all those shows, especially like HBO comedies, and you're like, you're twisted. I kind of forgot where I was going with this, but a joke that makes fun of a situation because it's live, and you're like, yeah, I get that, that's funny. Versus I'm going to attack you because you're different. I think that's where my...
Yeah, that's fair. I think so much of it is also how it's delivered. If you can tell the comics being tongue in cheek about it.
Yeah.
If we're talking about ICE and the kids who are being detained in camp, if somebody goes, finally an after-school program I can get behind. And like they kind of like they cheated with you. You're like, okay, that person's clearly tongue in cheek in it. But if somebody's joke is about how right it is that people are being detained, then now we're talking about two different, same topic, but now it's two different things because I genuinely believe this person believes that.
Yeah.
This person is being like, right, come on.
Yeah.
It's absurd. My joke is as absurd as the fact that we're having kids in cages. Like so it's like you can talk about anything. I think like it's just how you're. What are you presenting it? Yeah. What are you trying to do to it?
Because there's Guy Noland, who's a friend who's been on the show, comedian from my same class. Looks like a skinhead Klansman. I mean, and I had him on the show because I didn't like him when I met him.
Okay.
But I didn't like him just based on the visual. I saw him and I felt intimidated and I felt like I was back in Texas being bullied, and I was like, I don't know if we can be friends. But then that same fear is what pushed me to be friends with him and invite him on the show. In his stand-up, he talks about his physical
appearance, yeah.
Yeah, and walking in, he's like, I can walk into a group with millennials and they immediately hate me without knowing me because I'm the skinhead in the room. Mm-hmm. And then he can come out and do other jokes, and now they're funny because you know that's not how he thinks, like you just said.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I didn't have that, like I don't actually think this way. Disclaimer. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why trying to joke on Twitter is so difficult.
Oh my god!
Because you're just reading words. You didn't see me at all. You didn't There's so much you can get away with in live performance, but just by how it's delivered or how I hold a pause, or how I kind of what the face says. Words can be exactly the same, and it's all how did I just present that to you? Mm-hmm. So that's why it's just that's why Twitter's exhausting. Or not just their face, but it's a lot. That's and I do think there's dope stuff that comes out of it. Some people are great at that, but just for me, it's just such an exhausting thing to be all right, man, I'm gonna worry about my own joke and just try to make money. I don't know what you guys are.
Well, because I live in Laguna Beach, and we have what many would call first-class problems. I'm not going to say white people problems, but it basically, But basically, that's what it is.
But
and because when people ask me, where in Laguna do you live? I'm like, I live in the Mexican neighborhood. They're like, what's that? I was like, well, that's my apartment. Because I'm the only Mexican in that area. Yeah. Either I live there or they work there. That's basically what it is. And most people think I work there. But on the local Facebook pages, there's a local Laguna page. And I still think about that. I can't believe he actually took the time to write it. He wrote down that he was at a gas station. And we have a lot of homeless people in the area. And that a homeless man came up to him and asked him for some change. And he was so insulted that he was with his family. And how dare this man ask him for change? So I commented after him and I said, how dare that homeless person ask you for coins? Don't they know that all you do is carry bills? Instead of asking for a $5. People were just like, oh my God, dude. And the guy kind of deleted the post afterwards. I was like, that's stupid, dude. But anyway, that was my comeback. I don't know where I was going with that. I just wanted to get that joke out. Any last words before we go? We're down to the hour.
Thank you for having me. Anybody watching this, Rojo Perez, Rojo Perez, it comes up, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever you guys feel like. The HBO special comes out in March. I don't have an exact date, but it's called Entre Nos on HBO Latino. Don't worry, it's in English. You won't have to read. I know how much you guys hate reading. Please check it out, share it, and man,
I'll
following.
I'll have to have a watch party and then Twitter about it.
Oh man, that's
just dog you on Twitter the whole time.
That'll be one party. That'll be one more party than we expected.
No, now that I know, I'll keep in touch with you and find out when it's actually airing, so we can post it on.
Please, man,
on the show.
We'll
talk about it.
Thank you.
Where are you going next? You said.
When is this out?
This will be out
next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
June January 20-something.
At the end of the month. I'm... RojoPerez.com has all my dates. I'll be back. I'll probably be back in LA mid-February. Late February, we're in Houston.
That's right.
At Joke Joints. March in Jersey and Philly. Dates are starting to come in, so it's all kind of a mess now. But the big thing right now is the special in March. That's all. You guys want to watch that, retweet it, share it. That would mean the world.
Yeah. So this episode, hopefully for those of you listening, it's January 30th when this one come out. They come out every Wednesday.
Yep.
So this will be January 30th, and then we'll remember to repost it.
Yep.
And I'll put out the video version on YouTube right before your
cool
thing, so people can see.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. This is fun.
I'm a fan.
I appreciate
that.
So
I was a fan from the first time I saw you, and again, thank you for letting me stalk you and harass you for being.
This was the best case scenario for a stalking. This is all good.
And there was no web search change or
okay.
Yeah, the door's locked, so you can't get out. So there you go.
We had a good run.
For those of you listening, Rojo Perez has been. I like it saying in Spanish better. Rojo Perez has been on the show. Great conversation. Great words of wisdom. I want to thank my producer again, Mr. Kevin Morris, for all his help and support. Thank you, sir. Go check me out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, where you can find all the information on me, what we're doing. Stay tuned for some really cool projects that are coming out of Little Mexican Productions. We've got some awesome stuff in the works, and that you could probably be part of. Just get in touch. If you want to be on the show or know somebody that wants to, just get a hold of me, private messages or email, and let me know, and I will stalk you. For now, thank you, Rojo.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is Daniel Garza saying, hey, put it together.
This is how I put it together.
This is how I put it together.
This is how I put it together.
Subscribe to Put It Together on iTunes, Stitcher, and at abnormalentertainment.com/putittogether. Find Put It Together on Facebook and tweet Daniel at Lil Mexican, LILMESICAN. And for more podcasts, comics, books, movies, and more, head to abnormalentertainment.com.
You've been listening to the Abnormal Entertainment Network.